So this is a general overview of the entire system. What we have set up in front of us right now is the largest version of the sound system that can be put together. So basically this is 4 Community SLS 960s over 4 Yorkville LS 1208s. Each of these speakers has an output of around 140 decibels each, so the total system is somewhere around 150, 152, something like that. So this is certainly adequate for crowds of roughly 3,000, I would say. Maybe a little bit more, a little bit less, but it is a very loud, very long throw system. So moving on to the monitor line, everything is JBL as far as the wedges go. Here we have 2 that are in stereo image, they're like a stereo pair. So there's the left side and the right side, and this is good for the supercardioid and hypercardioid mics, which is like a Beta 58, where there's that directional pattern at the back of the microphone. This is really a good setup for basically situations where you need really, really high vocal output. Here we have a different 12 basically set up for another singer, probably a background singer, something like that. Another 12 for another background singer. Here's a 15 that could be set up for a keyboard or a bass player. And then back here we finally have a 15-inch drum monitor. So this monitor line has been used for numerous events for national acts with no trouble whatsoever. In addition to the basic monitor line, we have some side fill speakers here. So what we're looking at is a Community XP 525, and typically I would put a Yorkville SW800 underneath that, but unfortunately those are being rented right now. And of course I do have one per side. For smaller shows, these are actually my go-to speakers for front of house, but as you can tell, it doesn't even come close to the 9-foot stack of speakers that are set up right now. Over here we have the amplifiers. So this is basically the monitor amp rack. On top we basically have two amps set up, where the top one is running the high and mid frequency speakers, and the bottom one is running subwoofers. So right with this current configuration, the top one would be running the XP525s, the bottom one would be running the SW800s. Below it, there are typically 2 amps. One of them is actually in the shop right now because I had a problem with one of the channels, but it'll be ready to go by the time the sale happens. And those 2 on the bottom control 4 monitor mixes for the actual wedges. To the left here we have basically an XTI 4000 and iTech 6000 for a combined output of around 9,000 watts for the front of house system. So the XTI 4000 obviously runs the tops, the 6000 runs the subs, which provides around 1,500 watts per sub and around 650 per top, I think. And then controlling it all is the Yamaha O1V. So this looks like a 12-channel board, but it's actually a 40-channel board, of which we have 20 usable outputs for microphones. So basically I have 12 inputs up here, and then another 8 inputs down here with the expansion from the PreSonus. So basically what I typically do is run the vocals and sensitive instruments like acoustic guitar, maybe keyboard, that type of thing through the PreSonus, and then typical kick, snare, toms, bass, guitar, keyboards, or whatever would run through these top channels here. And this is all completely wirelessly controlled with the tablet, basically the tablet computer that I'll show a little bit later on. So this will basically be a quick demo of how quick and easy it is to set up the front of house system with basically the rack and the Yamaha O1V on top of it. So inside of the box itself we have 2 snakes. Here's a 12-channel snake that I use for the instruments in back. That corresponds to the channels on top here. So in this snake, channel 1 corresponds to channel 1 up here, and so on. I have a separate snake for the other 8 channels. And basically, again, I typically run the 12-channel snake to the back, 8-channel snake to the front, so one's for vocals, one's for instruments. Other than setting up the snakes, basically all you have to do is plug in your power, come around to the front, and we have an input panel, or an output panel I should say, that has all of the outputs. So as you can tell, we have right, left, 1, 2, 3, 4. So what you do to set up your speakers is actually just plug in an NL4 cable. So if you're unfamiliar with NL4 cables, they look a bit like this. So basically there are 4 cables in this, and the first set runs the tops, the second set runs the subs, and it's actually pre-wired to be able to do that with the SW800s and the XP525s. So in this configuration, without plugging in 2 different cables, basically this top amp here would be running the tops, and this sub amp here would be running the subs. And with that setup, you'd only have to plug in 6 cables to be done setting up front of house. So in a typical concert, once everything's in place, it takes something like 8 to 10 minutes to set up front of house. So this is basically an overview of the automation capabilities of the system. As with a lot of digital mixing boards these days, it can be controlled with a separate computer. So this first part of the rack here is actually a server computer that controls music playback. It controls the digital amplifiers, and it also controls the settings of the mixing board. As with a lot of digital mixers, it is fully automated, so you get the fader movement. And basically I'm controlling this with the tablet computer. I'm sure you can't really see the screen too well, but I'm basically moving the fader up and down for channel 9. I control the equalizers. Basically anything that you want to control on the mixing board is controllable from here. Obviously I can trigger music playback. I can change songs. A few different ways. I can set up playlists. I can go into the amplifiers themselves and recall different settings. So now you'll hear a drastic difference. I'm switching from a monitor setting to a subwoofer setting. It's very quiet, but it is a monitor setting at this point. So let me turn up the music so you can hear the subwoofers. So essentially what's going on right now is a subwoofer setting is playing through a 12, that's why it's relatively quiet. But from one convenient surface, we're able to control the mixing board, the amplifiers, and the playback all at once. And this is good for a range of almost a quarter mile. So without running any cables, and with a front of house setup of about 10 minutes, you can control essentially every aspect of your mixing system from anywhere in the building. So right now we're basically simulating a pretty common pre-concert setup. So what we're doing right now is ringing out monitors, and this is one of the times when a wireless audio system really shines and has a lot of advantages. So in a typical wired audio system, maybe we're controlling the monitors from front of house or from a remote monitor console that's off to the side of the stage. From the wireless system, we're able to get on stage with the performers and hear their perspective. So right now I'm standing in front of the monitors with a flat EQ, so I am expecting feedback when I cover the microphone. Yep, sure enough, right around 3.5K. So I can go into the mixing board via the tablet and take care of that without going back to the mixing board or anything like that. So with just a couple of tweaks, feedback's gone. So right now what we're looking at is a slightly different version of the system. So this time we have the XP525s on top of the 4 Yorkville LS1208s. I find this system to be suitable for about 500 to 700 people. It works great outdoors, and obviously it's fairly bass heavy. So I use it in situations where I don't need much of a throw, so like not a very long distance coverage, but a wide coverage. Basically the horns in the XP525s are 90 degrees, so it makes a really good very suitable option for things like block parties and a lot of outdoor festivals that you run into during the summer that just don't require the 3,000 person output of the SLS 960s. So again, looking at the monitor line, we can sort of see the speakers that are still available. So as before, we have the set of JBLs side by side that are good for a lead singer, a couple of backup singer monitors, we retain the keyboard monitor, and of course there's the drum monitor. The only thing we actually lose with this configuration is the ability to use side fills. So this time we won't be able to run the XP525s over the SW800s, because obviously the XP525s are used as tops in this case. This is the third largest version of the system. Basically I use this one for crowds, mostly indoors, sometimes outdoors if it's a smaller show, but I typically keep it to the range of about 300 to 500, maybe 600 people, a little bit more if it's country or like a lighter style of music. Definitely if you're doing metal or something like that, it's probably a good idea to bring out a bigger system for 500 people, but this does a very good job for basically what it is and the money that you can put into it. So on top we have one XP525 per side over one LS1208, And the same monitor system applies, but now you have the option of either using the XTI 4000 over ITEC 6000, or you can stick with what's in the rack for amps. Basically, you have the option of using an XTI 2000 bridge mono for the subs that would provide 1000 watts to each subwoofer, as opposed to running the ITEC 6000 in stereo for 1500 watts per subwoofer. Other than that, they're fairly similar. I think it's something like 1200 watts if you use the XTI 4000 for the tops versus 800 watts if you use the XTI 2000 for the tops. So very reasonable option for a lot of small to medium-sized events. So this is the smallest version of the system. I find this to be adequate for about 150 people. I usually keep it for like small indoor bars, maybe private parties, that type of thing. Right now I have an LS1208 in the middle. Typically for this system I would use an SW800 just simply because they're smaller. Basically all of the amps that are in the main rack with the mixing board are capable of running this system, and there's definitely no need to bring out the ITEC 6000 or anything like that, so that can just stay in the van for a gig like this. At this point you have the two speakers on sticks, one subwoofer in the middle, and you're left with four stage monitors for other purposes. So this is just a quick overview of some of the equipment cases that I have. So to begin with, we have this general stage box. As you can see, it's compartmentalized into 4 separate compartments. The first of which is microphone cables. There's something like 30 in there that I keep, and then there's a few more in the truck just in case. Here's a whole bunch of basically speaker cables. Some are NL4, some are NL2. They are marked in such a way that you'll be able to determine when you're using them. And then finally, this is the compartment where most of the power cables would be stored. I have a couple in use right now, that's why there isn't much there. And here are all the microphone cables. So basically the idea behind this was to bring this one box into the middle of the stage and be able to set up everything from there. This is a quick overview of the output capabilities of the system. So basically we have left, right, 1, 2, 3, 4. Left and right are actually NL4 connections, so one channel of the two controls the subwoofer channel, and the other channel controls the tops. 1, 2, 3, and 4 are actually designed for monitors, so each one of those will go into a corresponding monitor mix. And the idea behind this is basically if you're using a system that only has one subwoofer per side and an 8 ohm top per side, you can just plug directly into this and be done with everything. So this saves quite a bit of time when you're doing setup. Once everything is in place, I've gotten everything done in about 10 minutes before. On top of that, you can plug directly from the mixing board into this separate set of amplifiers. So this is what's used for the bigger shows. We've got an ITEC 6000 and an XTI 4000, and this is basically the rig that you would use when you're using more than one subwoofer per side. And the main reason for that is that the XTI 2000 in this rack is bridged mono. So bridge mono has a minimum impedance of 4 ohms for these amplifiers. So any more than basically two subwoofers on that one amplifier would be too much for it to handle. That would be too low, and the impedance would be too low for it to work. So it's very versatile, very quick to set up.